Greetings from Belmont Abbey as we now begin our Lenten observance for this year with the first Sunday of Lent. As in every year at the beginning of Lent, the first Sunday, the Gospel is the temptation of Jesus in the desert after his baptism by John the Baptist. And we sometimes wonder, why did Jesus have to be tempted? Because it says the Spirit drove him out into the desert. The answer is provided in one sense, by the Bible itself in the letter to the Hebrews, where it says that Jesus had to become like his brothers in every way, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest before God to expiate the sins of the people. Because he himself was tested through what he suffered, he is able to help those who are being tested. And thus the Gospel, as is usual on Sunday readings, is paired with the first reading, which is this temptation and fall from the book of Genesis. The inability to resist temptation is paired with Jesus, who, filled with the Spirit, did resist temptation. Now, it also is our profession of faith that Jesus was a true, complete human being and therefore was subject to temptation. Notice Jesus also, when the tempter, the devil, comes 3 times, the first to turn the stones into bread, and he simply responds at this instance, and in each of the 3 instances, with a citation from the Bible. He doesn't engage the devil in debate. And if we wish to resist temptations, we have to learn not to engage them. As soon as we begin engaging them, or wondering what it would be like, or imagining we're heading down a slippery slope, Jesus simply responds with the scriptural citation and doesn't engage Satan in any of the temptations. That is a teaching for us. Obviously, the Lord also knew the Bible. We might expect that, but do we know the Bible? That's why it was given to us, to remind us of God's love for us, that he sent his Son to become so fully human like us that he could be tempted and that he could suffer our death so as to destroy eternal death for all of us forever. So he teaches us by these temptations, don't engage with the temptation. Know your scripture so that you can respond with the right word or the right thought that reminds us of God's love and provident care for us. And it's a reminder, too, of a couple of things. One is the first letter of the Apostle to the Corinthians, where he tells us in chapter 10, verse 13, God is faithful, and he will not let you be tried beyond your strength. But with the trial, he will also provide a way out so that you may be able to bear it. Notice that Jesus goes through the temptations. God doesn't take the temptations away. His Father doesn't remove them. He has to suffer through them and endure them. And we oftentimes wonder, well, why doesn't God take these things away? Because he had to learn to, in the humanity he assumed for our salvation, to withstand temptation. So when the final temptation came in the Garden of Gethsemane, let this cup pass me by, and God's answer was no. He could accept that out of trust in God's love. So what we're really asking is the ability to withstand temptations, because ultimately it is for our good. And God will always come to our aid if we ask. But perhaps the right request is to be steadfast in endurance rather than give me an easy way out. And finally, I'll close with an example from our monastic tradition, the life of Anthony by St. Athanasius, sort of the first of the monks, Anthony of Egypt. He went into hermit life, monastic life, and he wanted to overcome temptation and fight the devil. So he had his friends enclose him in a tomb, place of death, place where the devil was active. And all his temptations and his fantasies came out, and they're represented in the story as ferocious beasts and fantastic and ugly and scary figures. And he was exhausted by it all. And then finally they left. he had overcome, and he asked God, where were you? Why did you not appear at the beginning to stop my pains? And the response came, Anthony, I was right here, but I waited to see you in action. And now, because you held out and did not surrender, I will ever be your helper. That God was right there with him to make sure that he didn't fall, but that precisely by the exercise, if we could say that way, of having to resist the temptation, he became ever more powerful in resisting all in the future. So as we start our Lent and sometimes wonder what we do with our temptations, don't resist. That is, don't resist. Don't engage them. Just get them out your mind, distract yourself. Stay close to the scriptures and prayer, and trust that God loves you enough that he will provide a way for you to go through them, and that the going through them is most likely for our good.